Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unboxing Umbraco 10.3, the show where we take a look at the latest release of Umbraco CMS. Today, Nils is joining me from the front-end team to help take a look at a couple of the features. Nils, would you like to say hi to the audience?
Yeah, hello, everyone. I'm Nils from the front-end team, front-end developer and designer at Umbraco. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
Yeah,
my name is Rune. I'm a product communications producer at Umbraco. I work in the marketing team, and I do things like record unboxing videos of the latest releases, write blog posts, and things like that. But enough about us. Let's take a look at the new release. Actually, quite a small release for once. Not a massive amount of new features, bells and whistles, but a lot of great little tweaks and improvements. So let's just dive straight into it. I'll share my screen and we can take a look at the very first feature here. So I think I have an Umbraco installation somewhere as well. The first feature we're going to look at is, it's actually one that was supposed to be in Umbraco 10.2, but it didn't quite make it into the release candidate, so we couldn't include it. But now it's here. And it is a very, very nice improvement to, I guess it's developer experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so
it's for sure developers will gain from this, right? But,
yeah. The feature is you have probably a large amount of data types that you work with. Some of them are quite complex. We could say the grid, for example. I think I have that set up somewhere here. Grid layouts, so quite a complex configuration. Different has some settings, some styles, configuration for a rich text editor. Now, if I wanted to maybe use this in another way, a little bit differently, or test something out on it, I pretty much had to reconfigure it in the past. But now with Umbraco 10.3, I can right-click on my data type, and now I have a little copy button. Actually, really nice feature. And it works as advertised or expected, I guess. You simply click copy, and then you can put it in a folder if you want to, or in the root. I can put it in my test folder here, click the copy button, and now when I go into reload here, into my test folder, and now I have a brand new data type. Pretty cool, right?
That's pretty great. Yeah. And it's also really been missed for all of the different complex data types you could have, right? Like the block list editor.
Exactly. Yeah. It just makes it a lot more efficient for those, especially for those more advanced data types, for sure.
Yeah.
So really nice, and it's a good continuation of the work that has been done over quite a few of the last releases of Umbraco, where say these actions have been added, things that you might actually expect to be there.
Yeah.
We also have, I think, in 10.2 we got the copy dictionary items as well. So I mean, these nice little improvements that really help and can save a lot of time for people working with it.
Yeah, and can be helpful for your workflow. Like if you want to copy a data type just for like to have a stamp of how it was previously, or if you're upgrading a website and you only want to change some usages of a data type, you copy it to change that and implement that for the specific places.
Yeah.
So it enables a lot of things, not just basically it's making a copy, but by it being there, it's easier to work with the software.
It could also be testing something out, right? Like if you have a data type that's set up and you have an idea for what to do, but you don't want to mess with it because that might interact with the content that's created based on the data type. Now you can create a copy, try the new configuration that works, and then you can add it to the existing one.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of use cases for what seems like a very simple feature. So I think we should give a shout out to Patrick Demoy, who patiently waited until Umbraco 10.3 for getting this in. So very nice contribution. I thought you
Nice
was.
addition.
Yeah.
All developers will be happy now.
Yeah. The next thing we're going to look at in 10.3, that's I think that's where you come into the picture. That's why I invited you to join me today, because we are actually seeing the inclusion of the Umbraco UI library into the CMS.
First little step towards a new front end in Umbraco. Because the UI library is the first step of the new front end of Umbraco in a larger picture, but we also want to provide it in the existing back office, so you today already can start testing it out, but you can also use it in extensions or where you see it fitting. And that can make you future proof, because you can make your UI today and that can continue to live into future versions of Umbraco. So that's really great.
So I guess it's both for new packages, so people starting up on new packages. It could be a good idea to take a look at the UI library and start using that. That'll make the transition to the new front end for the back office easier, hopefully. But I guess it's also existing packages. They can actually start migrating over to the UI library as well. Component by component, I guess.
And I would hope that if we come up with a need for some new UI, then we would make that UI in the UI library, so it is ready for future versions. So we don't have to replicate that.
And I think it's a month or two ago we made the first public release, I guess we could say, of the UI library. It's not that long ago, so it is in a it's not release candidate, it's not beta anymore. It is a full release that's included here, so it should be fairly safe to start using it, and then hopefully we'll also get some more feedback on it.
Exactly,
but
that would be nice.
It's always easy to say to people, it's included, now you can start using it. But I think it could be fun to take a look at how do you actually start using the UI library in the existing back office.
Yeah, exactly. That's super relevant. So I'll start sharing my screen, and then we can see what comes with the UI library. Because UI library comes with something called Storybook, a catalog of the components that it contains. And that is, I would say, the way to start using the UI library. You would go here and you would find what you need. If you need a button, you can go find the button, you can search for it. And then you can read the documentation here. You can see it in action, see how it works and behaves and what it can do. And you can even get a code snippet on how to implement it. And that's a great start for you to start using it, because with UI library being part of back office now, that means that you can actually copy such a snippet and put it in a package, for example.
Is that it? You just need to copy and paste it, and then it works.
Then there's something about integration between that component and the back office, but let's dive into that. So I set up a simple example here. I guess simple is a bad word, sorry. But I set up an example here where I'm going to use the UI library input in a property editor. And I have it right here in my editor. It has this input field here is from the UI library. Nice. And we can see that if we look at the code right here, we can see it says UUI input. That's the tag name. And then we have the values. But it requires a little bit more to integrate such a component than just putting it in, because you can see I have the ability to enter stuff and save it. And let me just refresh so you can see it's actually hooked up with back office. So let's look at the code. Just for clearance, I have registered my property editor through a package manifest. It's not super important. And just to highlight it, it only contains an HTML file, which is this file. And this code is generally a copy of what we saw from Storybook. We have to put a label on a UUI input for accessibility purpose. just using the label from the property. And then I want to pass in the value, let's say value. I'm setting that on this here. And then because we are not in Angular.js world anymore, we don't have the magically two-binded values properties. So when we change the value of this UI input, we don't have the value magically going back. We need to set up those integrations when we are implementing web components, UI library components in this case.
Yeah. So that's pretty much like using the old ng model. Wasn't it called ng model?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that would be the way to connect it in the existing Angular.js world. But here we have to then know when we're putting data into a web component, it's not in Angular.js anymore. Hence, we need to make sure to put it back into our Angular.js models. And we can do that by listening to native events. In this case, I'm listening on a native event called input. And Angular.js is so nice that they made this magic attribute that we can use for any events called ng-on-. And whatever name I put here can be any event. That's basically the name of the event.
Okay.
So it doesn't need to be an event supported by Angular.js. It's just whatever event we have. And let's maybe go back to Storybook just to see why I'm using that event. In Storybook, I can see the events fired by this component. We can see there's a change event, an input event, and a key up event. And I want to react to every change of this component. So I'm listening for the input event. And that's what we're doing here. And in Angular.js, we can do inline methods, functions. So here I'm just taking the event, the target, which is a reference to this web component. And then we're using the value and passing that back to the model.
Yeah.
So relatively simple, but I think it highlights the work that needs to be done, that you need to clearly pass on values and clearly bring values or changes back. And I think that's actually it. Also, that's a nice thing that it's also only that.
No, but it is actually nice and quite simple. I mean, it is a little bit different than what used to be there, but I think it's something that most will recognize, right? And I guess if this was a property editor you were updating that had JS like a controller or whatever, that would still work like it always does, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It just works with the value, and that stuff is updated by what
exactly. We can still do something like this. We could even put the controller directly on the web component if we wanted to.
Okay.
And we can also use some of our dictionary directives. Directly in here, like the localize one. And here we can have something like this, and that will work fine. So you can gradually change your property editor or package if you like. You don't need to switch out all the UI. You can take some of it if you like.
That's amazing. And really, really easy to get started with, I would say. Really cool. So,
and I'm really looking forward to getting some more inputs on this. And I think it's important to mention that this is the future we're looking into as well. So when we in the future will develop the new backups, then we will be using these UI library components, and all know from Angular.js will not be available anymore. So this is where we like to go.
Very exciting, and that means no more copying of HTML from the source code to make things look like other things. Everything is handled by the component, and it has accessibility. It's properly tested in the UI library and all of those things. So Really, really nice. Maybe you could just show us the storybook again. Just to highlight that there is really, really good documentation for all of the existing. How many components do we have now?
Oh,
quite a lot.
I didn't count it, but you see here.
Yeah, a lot.
But we also have some folders, like cards, for example. We have, the media card.
Yeah.
Which is one of them, right? And users and so on. So it's quite extensive. And one other thing from a design perspective that comes with this is that we are aligning things, making the UI a bit more coherent. So it's the UI, but it's starting to become coherent and appearing
consistent,
similar.
Yeah.
Consistent, yes, that's the word. Thank you.
No, that's fantastic. And documentation looks really, really good. So nice to have all of that stuff right there. It's a one-stop shop for everything you need for the UI library, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
And where can you find the storybook?
So that's available at uui.umbraco.com. That will be the latest one that is available there. Yeah. And
if you want to maybe give some feedback, contribute to it,
you can go to, okay, what am I looking at here? We have a repository for this. Here it is, github.com @Umbraco and Umbraco UI.
Yep. And that also has a link to the storybook. It has quite a nice introduction if you scroll down a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a nice introduction to it all. And it has an issue tracker. So if you find any bugs or if you think there's anything missing, start giving feedback in there.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Looks good. Really great news.
And maybe someone is wondering why the UI library is in back office in 10.3, right?
Maybe someone is, yeah.
Yeah, maybe someone is. And that's because we have been working on the block grid editor, which is a upcoming property editor for Umbraco. And that is starting to use some of the UI components from the UI library.
Yeah.
But it's not part of this release.
Unfortunately not.
No.
Yeah, for the ones that, for the keen viewers, listeners, they might have seen it in the release candidate for Umbraco 10.3, because we put it in there to get it tested and hope to include it in 10.3. That would have been nice. But I mean, looking at the feedback we got, there were still some tweaks and improvements that we needed to do, right? So it made sense to push it a little bit.
Yeah, we like to get more feedback. We like to make sure it's in a very good state when we are handing it out. So we are holding it back for a little longer. But I guess I can say for sure that it's coming in the next release.
That is definitely our goal.
So
tomorrow actually the release candidate for Umbraco 11. The next release is a major release. Umbraco 11 is the release candidate is coming out tomorrow, and that will include the latest version of the block grid editor. So we really hope that people will try it out, give us feedback on the latest changes and how it works out, and then we'll see it when Umbraco 11 comes out.
Yeah,
and I think it's worth mentioning
it's coming back to version 10 as well.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a version 10.4 with that as well. Yeah.
Exactly. That's not scheduled. We don't have any scheduled releases for Umbraco 10 after 11 is out, but we are going to put out a Umbraco 10.4 at some point after the 11 release, just to make sure that the block grid is available for Umbraco 10. It is an LTS release, so there's going to be some projects that's going to be using Umbraco 10 for a very long time, and they should benefit from this new editor. So keep a lookout for the release candidate tomorrow. Test it out and give us feedback on it. Fantastic. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen again. It's not that I don't think we have much more to demo here, but there are still there's actually quite a lot more in the release. I think there's 58 features, improvements, and of course a number of bug fixes included in this release. So there's even without the block grid, there's still plenty of reason to upgrade to Umbraco 10.3. It's a fantastic release.
Maybe it's worth to mention one little thing. We have it here under UI and UX updates.
Yep.
Now we are supporting asynchronous AngularJS filters in the block list and block grid editor. It's the top one of that list. So we know that people like to use this filter called NC node name, which is retrieving the name of a node. But that was not behaving nicely in the current state. So that's been fixed in this version.
Yeah, so, I think a lot of people have seen this loading thing on their block list editor or nested content or whatever, right? So this should be a lot smoother to use now, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And that's for filters in general. So you can also have your own asynchronous filter. That will now work in this.
Very nice.
That's quite nice.
Chad added this one, so shout out to him as well. Very nice addition. And well, I think this is actually pretty cool. So it's October right now, right? And I think 4 of the issues included here are actually part of the Hactoberfest. So they have been submitted during the month of October. We are part of the Hactoberfest, which is like an open source initiative from DigitalOcean, where we encourage people to contribute, get to know what open source is, meet the community, and you can maybe even earn some swag by doing it in this month. But there's already 4 of these PRs created during the Hactoberfest, included in 10.3, which I think is really cool. That's very, very fast, I would say. And if you want to know more about it, there is a great blog post by Sebastian over on the blog. I'll link that in the description of the video as well. But that explains everything about Hactoberfest, and it actually also has a really nice overview of all the places you can contribute. It's not just the CMS. There's plenty of other places, documentation, packages, the UI library, and it all counts towards your Hactoberfest contribution. So I think that's really nice. And one of the things that sticks out here as well is accessibility. It's at the top. I don't know if that's because it's with an A or what, but it is the top one. It is really, really important. As we saw, it's a big part of the UI library, but the effort that has gone into improving accessibility in Umbraco CMS over the last couple of years has just been amazing. We have a accessibility community team, which I think you're the steward of, right?
Yes. Nils? Yeah. Great team.
And they've been working diligently on just adding a ton of improvements. I think pretty much every release over years have had accessibility improvements.
Improvements on this,
yeah,
exactly. And we the team has just what's called ran a new test on Umbraco, and there's as a result of that, we have an updated issue tracker with issues, and the great Danny Lanchester, I hope I pronounced your name right, Danny, has been so nice.
I think.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Has been so helpful to describe a lot of these issues in ways that enables you to pick one of these issues up and correct them without any knowledge of accessibility.
Yeah.
And I think that's clearest if you go to the status board, Rune.
Yeah.
Sorry, maybe I have to mention there is a separate repository with a tracker containing all the accessibility issues, and as well this status board where we can see how it's progressing. And as you can see, there's great activity here, and all the issues in the ready column are issues that are well described by Danny, and you can pick. It's really easy to understand what the problem is, why we want to change this, and how we can fix it. So I think that's really great. So big shout out to Danny for this.
Fantastic. And the ones in node status over here, they haven't been updated with descriptions yet. So it's things that we know needs improvement, but they're not quite ready for. Yeah,
that doesn't mean you can't improve on these, but it's just not described yet. So you have to figure out the solution yourself.
Yeah. But this is also a great place for if you want to participate in the Hactoberfest. There's plenty of issues to grab here that you can add, and as you can see, they're really well described, so it should be approachable to get started on them. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that want to help as well if you get started. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that pretty much does it for the release. Fantastic little release here with a lot of nice improvements. As I mentioned, Hactoberfest is in full swing. A couple of them have made it into this release, and that also leads us to the contributors for Umbraco 10.3. There's no less than 19 people who have helped build this release. I think it's 58 features, improvements, fixes in all, and 38 of them have been contributed by the community. So that's well done, I would say. Yeah, that's really cool. Really cool. But the contributors for Umbraco 10.3 are Erik Jan Westendorp, Patrick Demoy, Bjarne Fürstenborg, Justin Neville, Anders Bjerner, Jevan Leopold, Carl Butler, Sean Thorne, Bushra Sengül, Lucas Bach-Bisgaard, Mike Macy, Matthew Kerr, Michael Ryder, Chad, Major Deor, Sasha Suga, Neil Naveen, Michael Lindemann, Daniel Knippers, and a big high five, you rock, to you all. Thank you for contributing, and well, I hope to see you in the next release, I guess. Really cool to see. Right. So I think that pretty much does it for this round of unboxing. Nice and short and sweet, but great release, good features, and really nice to see the UI library properly in action in Umbraco. Pretty exciting stuff.
That's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. Umbraco 10.3 is out now, so you can start upgrading your projects, start new ones on it. It's out on NuGet. It's of course available on Umbraco Cloud as well. All new projects you create there will be running Umbraco 10.3. There's a nice little upgrade button on your existing projects, so you can start upgrading them as well. And good luck with 10.3. And remember, tomorrow is the release candidate for Umbraco 11 and the second iteration of the block grid editor. So hopefully we'll hear from you with that release as well. Thank you very much for taking time to participate, Niels.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. See you in the next one.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.